gentlemen, the following podcast is scheduled for one fall. Introducing your hosts, Kids at Hart.
Hello and welcome,
hey everybody. I'm so sorry. I meant to add
we're
us in
good.
during the intro. I'm trying to blast our video out because this is a huge video right here. Everybody,
this is a big show.
if you are this is like the Nick show right here. Well, it would be the Chris show and the Nick show. I'm just thinking about our intros that we had given ourselves, where we became the Nick show and the Chris show for the Paul White episode of the show. But I mean, this is incredibly huge. If you can't tell already by the actual like intro or the thumbnail, we have a huge interview that all spawned, and I'll explain it obviously in the video, so when we get to it. But huge interview today with an incredible guy.
With for those who are just watching us for the first time, my name is Chris Anthony Lopez, and joining me right there is my boy Nick Molbach, Capital Punish Nick Molbach, and we are the Kids at Heart. You saw a little fancy intro in the beginning.
I added the WWE Capital Punish Nick because it would be very confusing if it was not that. So sorry.
Well, with context, I think we're fine.
Yes.
With no context, I think we have a problem. But
exactly.
This typically isn't my setup. I'm actually in Indiana for this week, and I'm like, you know what? Like, I'm still gonna do our show. Like, I'm not gonna not do Wrestle Real, especially after you said we had a little interview ski that we're gonna play in a second. But if you're new to us, thank you so much for checking us out. As my brother is running upstairs, but if you have not seen our show before, welcome. If you have, welcome back. Make sure you follow us in the social medias on top. We talk wrestling all the time on our socials, and we have 20 episodes backlogged on this very YouTube channel. Or if you're watching us on Facebook or Twitch, hi, go to Who Are They Real Entertainment on YouTube. Who Are They ? Real 2 E's Entertainment on YouTube for all of our previous Wrestle Reels and our Wrestle Real Talks, our movie news and wrestling watch along style shows. We have a couple of those as well.
Hybrid ski. The Chris Anthony Lopez way is to add ski after a lot of words, which is a beautiful thing.
No, I mean, I try. I forgot where I got that. I forget. I heard like Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows do it once, or Doc Gallows do it once, and I'm like, oh my god, like I have to do that now, and it just happens. And I know I piss some people off when I do it.
We love it. We love it.
I use all my wrestling lingo on this show. If I'm going to use it for any show, I mean, it might as well be this one, because I say I'm out here on Spin from the Real or Real Talk saying like, oh yeah, like I popped. It's like no one's going to get that reference unless you watch wrestling. So, I mean, here I am talking wrestling on Wrestle Real. But Nick, I know we've been hyping up the show for a little bit now, but we always start the show the same way. Did you watch any wrestling this week? I'm curious.
So a little bit. I couldn't help but watch the ending of AEW Revolution, which we will get to at the end of this episode.
Oh yeah.
FYI. Mm-hmm. Because holy mackerel, was that weird. But no, honestly, not really. It was kind of a busy week here in the Molbach room of Palace of Wisdom, as John Morrison would say. But yeah, no. How about you, Chris? Did you watch any wrestling this week?
I did, surprisingly.
Okay.
Usually when we like, sometimes you have to pre-tape shows, and I hate pre-taping shows because we have to do them sooner, and I always feel like we miss something if we have to pre-tape it.
We want to be live for all of you.
We want to be live for as many of these as we can. So since we're live this week, I actually watched parts of NXT and AEW.
Okay, good.
And I should say Dynamite, because we will get to Revolution. we are not reviewing Revolution. That's not a thing. We're going to talk about Revolution. We will not review it. We don't review things here. New things. What? Review new things? How dare we? But there's 2 things I want to highlight from this week. We got our first introduction into the WWE Hall of Fame this year, and it's going to be Molly Holly Mighty Molly, however you know her, and I'm over the moon about that.
Very
and
happy about that.
The second thing is Scorpio Sky, my boy. I talk about Scorpio Sky in here a lot, but he had a little heel turn ski on Dynamite this past week, and I am over the moon. They better push this man, because after he won at Revolution, he's the face of Revolution. They had the literal brass ring at the top, at the like hanging from the ceiling. But I
Sonic
was
the Hedgehog coin. I love it.
right, and I was just over the moon to see them actually doing something with Scorpio Sky. I feel like they've been teasing us and teasing us and teasing us, and we got nothing until this past AEW or this past pay-per-view followed up on Dynamite. So I mean, it was a great week of wrestling. NXT was great too. We got a few announcements NXT wise. The women's tag belts.
But
You don't like them?
I like them, but I would rather the women's tag team championship just go to NXT because it sucks on the main roster.
Right. And this makes me wonder if they just pulled the plug on the whole tag teams popping up on NXT thing, because like now we're just getting them, like they have the NXT women's tag belts, which by the way, they presented them to Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez just for them to lose them later in the night to Shotzi Blackheart and Ember Moon. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm such a Shotzi merc, so I loved it. I love seeing Shotzi win some gold in NXT, but like this though, like I mean, I still don't know how I feel about it. But we got that, and we got a confirmed 2-night takeover for WrestleMania weekend.
Yep. And so there's a lot of amazing things to be talking about when it comes to NXT, and I have a feeling that like we're gonna get to that like right after this first segment, because we could come back to our NXT talk. I have no problem with that, but
Totally.
we have a huge interview for you guys right now, and we're gonna get into that in count number 1, where the past me is going to explain what's going on in this situation here. So we're going to drop out. We're going to play count number 1, and past Chris and past Nick are going to take it away.
Word.
Was facing against John Cena. All right, everybody. So story time for 1 second. As you guys know, for the first time, I watched Capital Punishment, and I was very enthralled by the actor that they brought in to play President Barack Obama, because I just thought it was really fun that they did something like that. So without further ado, as you can tell by the title, today we are bringing in Reggie Brown.
What's up, everybody?
Capital Punishment's own Reggie Brown.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being here. First of all, so what was it like playing Barack Obama on WWE television?
It was awesome, but I'm just going to go back maybe a couple weeks before Capital Punishment, because I grew up like every other child of the 80s. Everyone was into WWF and wrestling our entire lives. We used to have the rings, the big rubber kind of wrestling dolls like that didn't really move much. They kind of just went like that, and you would just sit there for hours and, play around and mash them together and try to get them to fly off the turnbuckles and stuff. But a couple weeks prior to Capital Punishment, I made national headlines getting kicked off live on C-SPAN. They were broadcasting the Republican Leadership Conference in New Orleans. And prior to that, no one really knew about me outside of the corporate, comedy world. I was just doing these gigs that weren't really televised. Then all of a sudden I got invited on Real Time with Bill Maher. Then I was on Huckabee on Fox News. And then WWE came calling right after that. And that was kind of the setup for what brought me to WWE. I think it was just getting all this national, international attention. And then I popped up on their radar, and they were just like, get this dude here. And we made it work. It was awesome.
And just to add context to our history with Capital Punishment, because we've been doing this show since September, I want to say.
Yeah,
that sounds right. And one of the first pay-per-views that Nick and I have ever spoken of, really, was 2011's Capital Punishment, because I remember watching the show, and Nick was so fascinated, and I hope Nick's okay with me
Yeah.
me saying this. Nick was so enthralled that they brought in someone to play Barack Obama for a pay-per-view based in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, yeah.
And I remember, I'm like, because he said that to me, he's like, "Oh yeah, they have a fake Barack Obama." It's like, what? And I'm like, "Oh yeah, they do." And ever since then, that might have been our second or third episode. Here we are, 20 plus weeks later, and you agreed to come on our show. So I was so, when he had told me, it's like, man, I contacted Reggie Brown. I'm like, oh my god, like that's Obama. Like
That's
that,
me.
like and just looking at your career, you've been playing Obama for a long time now. Not
Yeah,
even just on WWE television. So, like, when did you realize, like, hey, I can do a pretty good Obama?
People started telling me I looked like him when I was 21 years old. I'm 40 now. So this is long before anyone knew who he was, because I'm from Chicago. And
Word.
so the first time, I was 21, and this woman came into my restaurant. Actually, right before that, my brother told me, he's like, "You look like this guy, Barack, who plays basketball at the East Bank Club," which is kind of like a wealthier sports complex club in Chicago. And then later that week, this woman told me I look like her professor. Google him. And that was the first time I heard it. And I was like, I don't look like that guy. He's too skinny. He's got big ears. And, and then as time went on and I started to, wear a suit to work, everyone who saw me on the street would be like, "Obama." And I got free taxi rides. People were picking up drinks at the bar, picking up my tab. And everyone was so overwhelmingly positive. They were offering me, like, it was just so positive. They wanted me to take pictures with them and all that. And I just never felt that kind of energy. And it just felt like this crazy phenomenon that once someone told me I could make a living at it, through the world of corporate comedy and, all these huge companies, anywhere from Fortune, 100, Fortune 500, whatever. Most companies have yearly conventions or meetings or something like that. And they bring in, a keynote speaker or entertainment act or like a band and stuff. So I set my sights on that and I started performing all over the world, doing like a 30-minute comedy set as Obama, where Secret Service come in, escort you in, and everyone thinks I'm really him. And then you do customized material for whatever company. And then once people start seeing that, and every time there's a new president, because they're in the news every day in the US, they're always in international news anywhere. So everyone knows who the president of the United States is around the world, and there's always a want and a need for that. So thank God I set my sights on it. I developed the makeup, the impression and things. And then all these opportunities started to come my way, just like you guys. You thought of having me on and you reached out, you put in the work, and now I'm on. That's kind of the way things work. If you're open to the energy of things and knowing, you can't just think, "Oh, I want Reggie on." You reach out and put the work in, and then, you go from there. And that's kind of what I did on a different scale and opened myself up to all the possibilities as Obama.
Like that's so crazy to me that
it's crazier to me, man.
Right.
Yeah.
And because I grew up in Northwest Indiana.
Okay.
So not too far from you. And like obviously Obama was such a big figure, like not only as a senator and like all his work in the Chicago area, but once he became president, obviously that must, like, your doors and your phone must start blowing up the second you got the chance.
Yeah, it's crazy. That's what most people thought. Everyone's like, "You're going to be on SNL, you're going to do this and that." But the way it works is so much slower. Like I was staying in somewhat like Fleabaggy motels, kind of doing like the stand-up sort of rise, and booking for a couple $100, having to drive to the things because we didn't have enough money to cover airfare. So you're driving.
It's like a wrestler.
Oh yeah, well I guess so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you kind of build, and now my busiest year was when Trump first got elected. Even busier than Obama's 2 terms, and then now things kind of tapered off. I'm doing cameos and Zooms and stuff because I can't perform live as Obama, so I'm doing other things as myself, business wise. But the Obama gigs started to taper because of COVID. If the meetings and conventions aren't happening, and WWE is not, stacking arenas and stuff like that. I would love to be back on, though, if anyone from WWE is watching. I thought I was going to wrestle when they called me. I thought they're going to put me in against someone and I was going to get body slammed or whatever. But all the little skits that we were doing, it was just awesome because there's so much that goes into it. When I pulled in under the arena in there, I think they were at the convention center in DC. It was like a whole new city underground. I've never seen that expanse underground, of everything, all these wrestling tour buses. They had the full catering, like all that. And these giants are just walking around back there, and you're just brushing shoulders with these guys that you see on TV. And it was unbelievable. And yeah, it was one of the best experiences of my life. And it solidified me with a different fan base too, because people still remember me from it. Wrestling has loyal fans, and you guys are watching pay-per-view from 10 years ago. I don't even know how you guys found. Do you have to pay for that still, or is that free online somewhere?
The WWE Network was where I had found it. And the reason why I watched it was because R-Truth was facing against John Cena for the WWE Championship. And I'm like, well, this has to just be the most bizarre pay-per-view overall. Just if R-Truth, a guy who I'm a huge fan of, is fighting for the WWE Championship. Yeah. So tell us a little about the segments and stuff like that, especially the Spinaroonie. Was that always something that you wanted to do, or?
Of course. I mean, and this is the thing. When you get older, because you guys are still young, and just do as much as you possibly can, even if it's outside of your interests. Like my brothers didn't know they could run until I signed us all up for a 5K. And I was like, oh, don't worry, I'll meet you at the finish line. I'll just be there waiting when you're done. They both finished before me, and they weren't even breathing heavy, which meant they were there for like 5 minutes, and I finished in a good time. Lewis went on to break records that haven't been broken since the 80s at his high school. Jonathan went on to run cross country. They never ran like that before. They had no idea that their bodies had that potential, and we're all so full of some sort of potential. So my brother, he's like, I'm going to do this breakdancing class, like probably 23 years ago. And I was like, cool, I'll go with you, So we started working on a little groundwork, and I tried getting a little helicopter down, whatever. So I practiced that a lot at that age. And then when they're like, oh, could you do the Spinaroonie? I was thinking, I'm like, I hope to God I could do it when the cameras are rolling, because I was nailing it during rehearsal, and they brought it up to me. And then once it came, I it was a little sloppy, but, it was just one of those things that who would know, God knows how many years later, that would come out in such a big fashion, or something I could show off. So, I think Jamie Foxx said in an interview before, like, add all these tools to your toolbox while you can, because you never know when you're going to need to reach in and grab them out. And a lot of different things prepared me for that moment. And even when I got up and did my speech at the podium, with the big backdrop, I was so nervous because I thought I was just going to go out and do some of my jokes and my lines. And I get there and they hand me like this script. It's like this. And I'm thinking, I can't memorize this. There's so much going on around me. Vince McMahon walking in and out. And he's just like, oh yeah. He's like, let's take a picture, and like all these different people wanting to take pictures with me, which is crazy. Like every celebrity that I've met when I'm in character freaks out and asks me to take a selfie. Like we did Barbershop 3 and Ice Cube's like, I'm sorry, man, can we take a selfie? I was like, Jesus Christ, of course we can, but it's just crazy the way people act around like the president. And so I'm getting all nervous thinking I'm going to forget my lines. And then in the middle of it, every time I stopped, the audience kept doing that. What are they saying? It's like they all say the same thing at once.
Were they what chanting you?
I think so.
Okay. Oh my God.
It was like every time I got to a stop, they'd say something and I was just like, oh, like keep it going. And they just kept throwing me off. And I'm like, are they booing? Like, what are they doing? And so that was like, throwing the challenges at me. But then in the back, like those are just little interactions where like, okay, well now, Sergeant Slaughter is going to come out and do something. And now, he's going to come down here. You guys just, I don't know, interact and whatever. And I'm just like, these guys do it all the time and with each other. So I was just trying to figure out a way to fit in and have fun with it and try to do my best. So it's crazy, trying to keep the composure, but be professional, go with the flow and all that. But in the end, it was awesome, especially when we all ate dinner together. And these guys are just like, it's kind of like when you're going to a new school or something and there's different lunch tables and there's all these guys just sitting around eating, there's everything. And I'm just like, sit over here, sit over here. You know, where do I go? But yeah, everything that day was an adventure and learning experience, and it was awesome. I'll never forget that.
And the one thing that sticks out to me, I mean, there's so many things you just said that I have so many questions on.
Yeah.
But the one thing is that like you were one-on-one with Vince, or at least you were talking to Vince directly at some
Oh
point.
yeah.
And like, because typically he doesn't do that, at least not anymore. Like it takes a lot just to get to talk to Vince on, like, just from what we hear from wrestlers themselves.
Oh,
let
really?
alone an actor coming in to do just a one-off thing with WWE, but he's portraying the president, and Vince is over here asking you for pictures. Like,
Oh,
I'm
so
assuming
cool.
he shook your hand. Like,
Oh,
was
yeah,
Vince
yeah.
like as strong as he looks, or like like just like, were you intimidated by him? Because obviously you said you watched wrestling, so you knew of Vince McMahon.
I knew it. Yeah, of course. I knew, but at the point I met him, I don't know if he had some sort of injury. You could definitely tell that he was like, I don't know if it was his back or what, but he was kind of folded over a bit, and you could tell he was in some sort of pain, you know, or discomfort. So I don't know exactly what was going on sports injury wise, because I'm out there, not professionally, but I golf, I surf, I do anything I possibly can to stay active, box or whatever. And then every now and then something stupid, especially at my age and especially at his age, the dumbest little thing can, like, you know, it's not a joke. Like on these shows where they bend down to grab something and their back goes out, you know, it's like, it's crazy. So I don't know what was going on, but the handshake was there, but everything else, it kind of seemed like we talked for a couple of minutes and then he went into his limo and, you know, took off. I'm pretty sure it was a limo, not like an SUV. So it's kind of like an old school kind of thing.
Oh my God! Like, and I mean, you said you're product of the '80s. At least we're watching '80s wrestling.
Yeah.
And like Sergeant Slaughter, it's a big deal.
Oh yeah,
and
that was huge.
And I every time, like, if you Google like Barack Obama capital punishment, like you're gonna find that picture with Slaughter. You're gonna find that Spinner Rooney. Because I remember when we first found out you're gonna come on the show, and I told some friends of mine, like, oh my God, guys, you would not believe who I'm gonna talk to. And I sent them a photo and they're like, holy shit, like that's so weird. Like, it's like, yo, like, because there was the one time, and capital punishment hasn't happened again. Yeah. Like, you were part of the one capital punishment show.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet.
And you got to interact with Booker T and Sergeant Slaughter. And that's must have been nuts. Not only like for work, like you're getting paid to do this.
Yeah. I'm telling you.
Oh my God.
It was like a dream. And sometimes I don't take it for granted. Like all the cool stuff I've done all over the world, it's brought me to 25 countries, and from like movies and commercials and all these different, you know, videos that have gone viral and stuff. It's always awesome to experience these things, but be grateful for them. And there's times where I've gone home and just sit in the hotel bed and just think like, oh my God, you know, go over what's happened. There's times actually I've cried. Like I've broke down and seriously have cried a couple times. Just like, I could not believe that just happened. Yeah. As a kid coming from, you know, working class family on the south side of Chicago, to have this opportunity that's turned into so many more. And then thankfully to have been able to develop something, because people think, oh, you look like you got this handed to you. I don't look that much like him. I don't feel like I, you know, at this point look like when I was younger and skinnier, but now I walk around at like 195. I have a more athletic build. You know, if I don't have I don't have his ears unless I glue them on, you know, with now it's all the gray, but the makeup accentuated. There's so much work that goes in behind the scenes. And they always say like overnight success stories don't just happen overnight. Most times people have been, you know, doing this for years, and then they just get discovered by society or the media or something. So to have my work recognized by people that I've respected for so long is such a crazy feeling, you know, like Ice Cube asking me for a selfie, or Akon chased me out when I was on the Tonight Show. Him and Colby O'Donis, this old singer, they ran out the front building like, hey, before you go, can we take a picture together? And I'm just like, what is happening right now? So yeah, it's crazy. And I always tell everyone, especially in my speeches, you know, in my keynotes called How I Became the President of the United States. And I go around and I still come out as him, but then I take off the makeup on stage and talk about my life and overcoming everything. But everyone is exceptionally good at least one thing. A lot of us have different talents, and some are multi-talented in a lot of different ways, but you are given at least one thing that I think that each person is better at than almost everybody else, and this is something that I feel like I'm grateful to have had these skills to be able to create this character. And I'm glad that I've been able to be in the position. I don't want to sound like conceited, but I know what I can do when I'm in character. And I feel like all the work that I put in, I fool people around the world, no matter where I go. It doesn't matter what country, so focus and try new things, know what you're good at. And if you can make a career out of that, then you're set. And if you can't make your career out of that, then make it a hobby and don't ever lose that part of you, because you're going to need that, inspiration. You're going to need the thing you look forward to go and do. And if it can please and help other people, do it. I've done this for people on their deathbeds that wanted to talk to Obama, and their family calls me, and I'm just like, oh my God. If you want me to do it, I'll do it, and people come up to me, say, it's the best day of my life, when you got elected and all this, like 100-year-old Black woman when I was in Alabama on a booking, and she's just blessing me and kissing me and telling me she loves me. And I'm like, I love you too. Like I got to give them those moments for the other people. And if they find out one day down the line, then that's great. But if not, then at least I was able to give them that. So, find your talents, develop them as much as you can, because especially robots can replace so many jobs, but they can't replace a lot of things that we can do, So, all right, I'm done preaching. Next question.
No, that was awesome. Like,
yeah, seriously.
But
sorry, I talk too much sometimes.
Join the club. I mean, Nick and I, when we do these shows, we just go and we go and we go, and like it's the passion, man. Like obviously, like you may or may not be passionate about Barack Obama, but you're passionate about your craft, and you carry a lot of weight with you. Like you may be embodying the 44th president of the United States, but like you're also like what you just said, like to some people, you become him for a day, or for a few hours, and like that carries a lot of weight. And for something as goofy as wrestling can be, it's like you were Barack Obama for a night to us in 2011, and I don't know, and like if I bought it back then, I'm like, is that like no, like, and I probably knew it wasn't, but at the same time, like you stuck out. Like when Nick had told me, like, hey, it's like I just watched Capital Punishment, and like, and I'm so fascinated at this Obama guy. I'm like, oh my God, they did do Obama on that show. And I can't get out of my brain. And that was 6 months ago when we had talked about it. And like looking at your other work, like you've been all over Nick and I's childhood, sprinkled in,
really,
like doing your stuff on Disney Channel as well.
Oh yeah.
Like, and I'm like, oh my God, like that was him. Like that. Like, so just seeing what you have done, and like that is, I would have never have known that you would have not done like these bookings for like shows and stuff, but you've stepped in for people when they wanted to meet Obama.
Oh yeah.
And you're out here doing like that's incredible. Oh my God.
Really.
Thank you. Well, now it's transferring over to virtually, so many people, like when I'm doing my custom videos through my website, which I do prefer over Cameo because that app's kind of a nightmare, but still the videos fool people still, and especially like the elderly. I love it because, they can't see as clear and, whatever. So they all think that I'm him. So it's crazy how, not being able to do it in person is kind of shifted in the virtual world, and it's still effective. For me, I've seen the power of like, they're hooked with emotionally, like the sight, they see that initially, then they freak out. Then emotionally, they're like, oh my God. And then all the cameras come out, and then they're like on a roller coaster. Is it him? No, it's not. Is it him? And then like start talking. Oh my God, it is him. Then I used to end doing the moonwalk in a little musical thing when I was done at my performances, and people would still, after I did the moonwalk, this woman followed me to the elevator. She waited after the show, like 45 minutes until I came out of the back green room. And then she's like, Mr. President, please pass this legislation, blah, 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 whatever. And she like handed me a pamphlet. I'm like, I just did the moonwalk and told jokes for 30 minutes. And you think that, and sang to the audience, and you still think I'm president. So some of these people are awesome. I mean, that's why I work. And it's always surprising to me. never a dull moment.
That, oh my God.
That's
And,
amazing.
and here we are talking about pro wrestling. That's like,
Well, yeah, I mean, growing up, we had like Hacksaw Jim Duggan, obviously Hulk Hogan, but Macho Man Randy Savage was one of a kind. You know,
My man.
all these guys, Jimmy's Superfly Jimmy Snuka. You guys know all these
Yeah.
old school dudes?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. I have those figures you're talking about.
Oh,
They're
the
my
old
dad's
rubber
when he
ones?
was younger. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They're all in the basement right now. I definitely need to decorate with them a bit, but
Yeah,
so
Hillbilly Jim.
Hillbilly Jim. Oh, that was one of my favorites. I actually have a
Yeah.
regular figure of Hillbilly Jim. So
Oh, cool.
so growing up, so you mentioned Macho Man, who's definitely one of Chris Anthony Lopez's favorite wrestlers.
one of my
He wears,
favorites.
wears the glasses every single show.
I felt like the
sweet.
glasses were inappropriate for the interview. I have them right behind me. I just felt they were inappropriate.
So who were some of your favorite wrestlers growing up?
Superfly Jimmy Snuka was all of our favorites. He just always seemed so cool and so different, you know. Razor Ramon too. I mean, you can't dislike him. You know, the attitude, the accent. God, the Bushwhackers were cool. When they used to come out and do their like thing, and you know, then you start getting. God, the Undertaker, like that was more like grade school, I feel like. And who was his little hype man? Paul Bearer.
Yeah,
He was such
yeah.
Ooh, he's like the weird stuff he would do. He was awesome. We all used to make fun of him, and yeah, then like Stone Cold started coming out and all the newer age guys. But it was interesting, the guys way back in the day, and Mankind. But yeah, and to see where it's at now. Like one of our boys out here, we have a group. We call ourselves, it's the Gotti, the Gentleman of the Year group, and all of us are friends first, but you know, we're kind of doing our own thing in different businesses. So the Miz was brought in, so he's a friend of ours. We do dinner like once a year with the Miz. He comes in, and he's a really cool dude too.
Yeah, that's yeah. He's actually from the city my family grew up in.
Oh, cool.
So my uncle knows his dad and like sees him at restaurants and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
We could. But yeah, so thank you so much for being a part of our show.
You're welcome.
We are so grateful to have you. Excuse me, as we're experiencing some technical difficulties. Not sure why the video stopped, but 1 second. Buddy, so
Mr. President, please pass this letter. But yeah, and to see where it's at now. Like one of our boys out here, we have a group. We call ourselves, it's the Gotti, the Gentleman of the Year group, and all of us are friends first, but you know, we're kind of doing our own thing in different businesses. So the Miz was brought in, so he's a friend of ours. We do dinner like once a year with the Miz. He comes in, and he's a really cool dude too.
Yeah, that's yeah. He's actually from the city my family grew up in.
Oh, cool.
So my uncle knows his dad and like sees him at restaurants and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
We could. But yeah, so thank you so much for being a part of our show.
You're welcome.
We are so grateful to have you. StreamYard, what are you doing? So here's the thing is I will upload the interview to our YouTube channel as we speak. You can find it there. Reggie was incredible. The stories that he told about being there for people when, obviously the real president Barack Obama could not be, was
Right.
touching and incredible.
Mhm.
And Chris was right when he said this is, and we're just here talking about wrestling. But I take a lot from that statement, though. Joy can come from a million different places, and the
Mhm.
fact that like people can just hear joy and just be happy, and I'm such a huge fan of Reggie Brown. Especially after that interview, he is such a stand-up guy. So Reggie, if you're watching this right now, thank you so much for being on our show. We couldn't thank you more. I'm not entirely sure how that came about at the ending, why it was playing like that. Let's try it one more time. Perhaps StreamYard has like a cap on as much as you can do. I don't know.
Who knows? But
But as we speak, I am going to be uploading this video to the Who Are They. I'm not even going to upload it to the highlights channel. We're just going to upload it straight up to the Who Are They Real Entertainment as a bonus Wrestle Real video as well, just so everybody can see what we're doing. Link in the
Right.
bio if for some reason you've made it this far. But again, Reggie Brown, thank you so much for being on our show.
Really great guy, and I was so nervous going into that because I didn't know what to expect out of that interview. But he was such a nice guy, so kind to us, and so kind for coming on our program. And again, we apologize for the technical difficulties. It's live TV, but we're not on TV. We're on the internet.
Well,
But
so for a little bit of context, StreamYard, and I will keep mentioning StreamYard in this. We love you, but you guys, and they initiated this new feature that I've used before, so it's kind of strange that it would work that way, where you can share a video to your from your computer straight up to a stream.
right.
Great feature, by the way, because it's really helped out at other streams beyond this point. It, for some reason, kind of crapped the bed on us, but
It is what it is. It happened,
yeah.
like what Nick said. We're going to post a whole interview on our YouTube channel, so go ahead and check that out at Who Are They? Real 2E's Entertainment. I mean, it was a great chat with Reggie Brown, and again, we apologize to the live viewers. There wasn't too much left, but just in case you want to check out the rest of that, it will be on our YouTube channel shortly. But Capital Punishment. That I feel like that show's definitely followed us throughout the 20-some weeks we've been doing Wrestle Real. And the fact that we got to talk to the one guy who keeps reoccurring in those conversations, Fobama.
It was absolutely brilliant.
It was surreal. And I was cheesing so hard, like in the beginning of that interview. I was nervous. I usually don't get nervous or stuff like that, because I knew we were just going to talk to him. But damn, like I was pretty nervous. I didn't know what to expect, but I was pleasantly surprised. Doesn't begin to cover it. So again, thank you to Reggie Brown for coming on the program. Really do appreciate it. For taking time out of his day. I know he's a busy guy.
Yes.
Although like COVID's still running wild, brother. Like actors are still pretty busy. So they're out here rocking.
Absolutely. And again, we are incredibly, incredibly, incredibly grateful to have had him on our show. Again, if you want to check out the interview itself, check the link in the bio. We're going to have it there. But that said, we still have 2 more counts to do. It feels like this was the major part of the episode, was doing this, but we still have two more AEW related things to talk about.
Let's do it. So a lot of stuff happened with AEW this past week. Like a ton of stuff happened. Whether you are a fan of the weekly programming or if you watched the pay-per-view this past weekend. Well, last Wednesday, not this past Wednesday, the one before that, Paul White, who we talked about on this show, he said, I have a Hall of Fame worthy announcement, a new signing for AEW. and the internet was running wild
Oh
on
yeah.
who that was going to be. Was it CM Punk? CM Punk? CM Punk? No. Was it Kurt Angle? You suck. No, it was not Kurt Angle. From out of nowhere, Nick Mulbach texted me before AEW Revolution. He said, "What if it's Christian?" I said, Nah, Nick, shut up, Nick. It's not gonna be Christian." Christian Cage pops up at AEW Revolution, signs a contract. Christian Cage is all elites at Dynamite, and
Yeah.
I'm over the moon. Over the moon. Oh yeah.
We're gonna be
Yeah.
feeling different ways on this, my friend.
Yo, and let me be optimistic Adam? Optimistic Ali real quick.
Also, by the way, hi Jess. Thank you so much for watching.
Hi Jess. All the love right back to you. So, Christian Cage. So he popped up at the Royal Rumble a couple weeks ago, or about a month and a half ago at this point, and Nick and I, we went berserk watching Christian pop up. Can you close your eyes? Like we lost our minds. Like that was one of the pops of the year for me. I love Christian. Christian's one of my favorite wrestlers ever. And seeing him like get in the ring again after he had all his concussion issues about a decade ago.
Yeah.
And he was forced to retire. But a la Daniel Bryan, a la Edge, Christian Cage came back to wrestling. And he's out here taking bumps and signing contracts at All Elite Wrestling. I know I complain and I moan about AEW being it's the show for the marks. Well, damn it, I'm a mark. And I love AEW. I love all the stuff that got going on over there. But Christian Cage popping up, and now they're inserting him into the main event scene off the bat, bro.
Yeah,
Like,
that shocked the hell out of me, my friend. I was like, is that actually going to happen? And then it did. And I was like,
yeah.
What? Like, I don't know. I could not believe that. I mean, good for them, because Christian, man, he's one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. Christian Cage is.
Christian Cage or Christian?
Christian. Yeah. I mean,
It's
it
a difference.
It wasn't anything with his Impact run or anything like that. I just liked Christian when he came back to the WWE.
Mm-hmm.
Because like even he elevated the ECW championship, people.
Right. On WWE CW, which that show was like from the bat. But yo, Christian elevated that whole show, and when he won his first world title, like people lost their damn minds. I feel like if we took internet culture now or wrestling culture now and popped it back in 2011 or 2010 when he won it, like
it
my
would be
God.
right up there with like the way that we all marked out with like Jeff Hardy and stuff like that. Here's the thing. It's like if he can wrestle and he can remain healthy and like everything is okay, then I'm happy about it. It's kind of like a Sting situation.
Yeah.
But a guy like that can still wrestle. I think that the part that I am the most butthurt about is I wanted him to get that match with Big E. I wanted him to still be with the WWE. It's so I don't know where that voice came from. It's so strange to me. It's so strange. It's so strange to me because this is different than like when Impact was in its prime, where they were scooping up WWE guys, but AEW is scooping up former WWE wrestlers who were legit in WWE the week before. It felt like it wasn't happening with like Impact or TNA at the time, where it was like a week later you'd see what's blah 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 doing in the Impact Zone. Which, by the way, not to confirm or deny any of this, because all he did was ask for it. Could we be seeing Mr. Andrade CM Almas appear in the Dynamite. I don't know what do they call it.
Oh, what? Like
Will
the Dynamite zone?
Andrade be All Elite? That's the question. Or will he be Impact? Or will he and Zelina Vega be All Elite? It's just like because I saw somebody make a really good point earlier. They squandered that. They had something good there with Andrade and Zelina, and they squandered it.
Mhm.
Not surprised. It's the WWE. They squander a lot of stuff. They're squandering Andrade right now. You have a guy who's dating Charlotte Flair. Pair them up together. Do something. A heel Andrade and a heel Charlotte would rule the WWE.
But
Get
reasons like that are why peeps like Christian are jumping ship.
exactly.
Like Christian was at the Rumble. He was Final Four. He was
Yeah.
Final Four in the Rumble upon his return, and he's in AEW a month and a half later.
It's weird.
Like, we doesn't even begin to cover it. Like it was such a it came out of nowhere. And I know like that name was floated around. Like you obviously had texted me about it beforehand. I'm like, no, because WWE's gonna keep him.
Mm.
But after hearing about, like, I listened to his podcast with Renee Paquette and the Oral Sessions, which I still think is a questionable name for a podcast.
A little bit.
I listened to his interview with her, and she was asking him like, "Yo, I'm like, what the hell? Like, how did you get from WWE to AEW in such a short amount of time?" And he's like, "Well, it all happened so quickly." Apparently, he hit up Tony Khan, who he was buddies with beforehand anyway.
Mm.
Like he hit up Tony Khan, and a week later he signed. Like it was that quick. And WWE, they just, I don't know if the money wasn't there, or if if he thought the creative wasn't good enough, or if they didn't want him. That's totally a thing too. They just didn't want him. And I
Yeah.
know like it's like nostalgia is a big thing at WWE right now, especially with the whole COVID stuff still running wild, brother. And we're gonna see more of it going forward, especially with the Hall of Fame announcements every single week now. But
Yeah, because they're doing this year and last year's ceremony.
yeah, they're doing the joint, and it's gonna be a long ass show. And so if they don't cut people's Hall of Fame speeches, that Hall of Fame show's gonna be like 9 hours long.
Count me out.
Right. It's like I will I'll
WWE uploads highlights of those videos as they're happening.
I just don't need more Ric Flair getting cut off cringe.
I don't need any more Mr. T talking for 30 hours.
Right. It's like, bro, like we need to have a cap. But like you think these wrestlers are good with time. Like they're all about time and shit. But going back to Christian popping up in AEW. I mean I lost my mind. I forgot what I was doing. But when I heard about it, I'm like, oh my God, this is incredible. But I will say this.
Yes.
I don't want to sound like I'm contradicting myself. My thought process remains the same. When I heard that Daniel Bryan was coming back, when I heard that Edge was coming back, when I heard that Sting was coming back, these guys that are forced into retirement because of injuries. So when Christian came back at the Rumble, I'm like, that was fun. He's taking bumps. Oh, why he's taking bumps?
Yeah.
And I thought that was gonna be it. And he didn't pop up on Raw or SmackDown the next week. I'm like, okay, so that might be it. So now he's signed, according to him, a long-term deal, which long-term can mean anything.
Right.
But this may sound like the last chapter of Christian's career. And when he was talking to Renee Paquette, he was talking like how not only would he be wrestling, but he'd also be developing talent at the same time.
Which is
that was apparently that was a big thing for him, was not only wrestling now, but preparing the future for AEW as well. So I'm of course I'm worried, and especially if you're gonna plug him into a program with Kenny Omega off the bat, like I'm concerned. I think would be the word for it. I don't want to see my man get hurt, but according to the interview that he did with Renee Paquette, he had been cleared last year after the whole Randy Orton kick to the dome thing. Once, like, remember when that happened when Raw just got to the PC, and he said he went to go get tested by doctors, and they said, "Yo, you're more than good. Like, if you want to wrestle, like, by all means, do it." Right. And he's like, "All right, cool." And apparently the bug bit him when he came back again at that pay-per-view, whatever pay-per-view it was. But I'm so happy to see Christian back. If he's cool with it, like these guys aren't dumb. Like they know what they're doing. If they want to wrestle, then by all means let them. Because if WWE doesn't let them, we obviously can see what they can do. They can go to AEW and do the same thing.
All right, so I have a few. Well, okay, Christian, we're done with Christian, obviously, but this all has to do with Christian. What I'm about to bring up
Okay.
is who's next.
Define who's
Because
next.
I have a
Goldberg.
feeling. Oh well, I don't have enough time to click it. I'm talking in the sense of Kurt Angle was making it almost clear that. Oh, sorry. Goldberg. Kurt Angle was making it pretty clear that like it was him, like on Instagram and stuff like that.
Right.
Like, I have a feeling we're going to see him appearing at some point in AEW. I don't think CM Punk's going to go to AEW. I mean, if he does, then AEW is going to start beating Raw. Probably not. Okay, but I'm just saying,
statement.
I'm just like, I'm just saying, like, I think that AEW, if CM Punk went to AEW, like, that's it. Like, they're gonna skyrocket in viewership.
They should move to Mondays at that point.
Yes. But I mean, I don't think that's gonna happen anytime soon. If he's gonna come back, it's gonna be with a mended WWE relationship. I honestly think so.
So the money's at.
Exactly. The $1 billion is that. But it's so strange to me. I think if Ziggler ever gets released by the WWE, he will be in AEW the second that he could be. Under the name Nick Nemeth.
I mean, yeah, because his brother's already over there. Like they could. I want to agree with you so much or so bad, but we said the same thing about Cesaro, and Cesaro he had a little baby push, and now he's just like he's still around, but like he's not in like a main event program or anything, and he re-upped for another deal reportedly. So I think money talks, and for as much shit as WWE gets, I think they're still a decent and reputable company. They still get a lot of shit though, but so does AEW. AEW is not perfect. Like we come on the show and complain about them, bitch about them all the time, because like we're
going to a little bit.
Yeah, we will. And I mean, Revolution, how the pay-per-view ended was also like a great way to show like, yo, AEW's not perfect. But in regards to who's next, I mean, Angle's not a bad option, even if it's just like a one-off. Eric Bischoff showed up, so anything's possible. I can't tell you who's next because I don't know. Like Moxley, he let his contract run out. He was in AEW the next month.
Yeah.
So
I'd like to see Eric Bischoff come back for more and actually be there as an on-screen personality, just because I want Eric Bischoff back in wrestling very badly.
He's one of the most polarizing and infamous names in professional wrestling. Like our parents may not know who he is, but if you're a wrestling fan, you know the stuff Eric Bischoff has done and been a part of.
His entrance in WWE was "I'm back and better than ever." It's like my favorite thing in the world.
Eric Bischoff's great, but hopefully, if AEW is going to keep signing talent, like top tier talent, let's get that third show off the ground first, because they have a lot of people on their roster that don't get shine at all. No. Like their roster is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and the more big names you bring in, like like Paul White, like Christian Cage, then we're also pushing people lower down the card.
Right.
So let's keep that in mind as well. So AEW elevation, not evolution as Paul White called it, elevation. Once that happens, like we're gonna have to. Someone's here. They're gonna have to start, utilizing this talent that isn't necessarily seen all the time. The same thing on Dark. Make Dark a bigger deal. Don't just have squash matches on Dark. Like that's not the move anymore. But you gotta even out and spread out your roster amongst the 3 shows. If you're gonna have 3 shows.
I have an idea about that, and it's gonna show up in our final segment. But that said, we are gonna be moving on. I know I haven't had a high spot in a very long time, but I have one. But it's going to show up in our final segment. But we're going to move on to count number 3, where we're still going to be talking about AEW. We're going to be talking about AEW Revolution. Brian Zane, check your DM.
AEW Revolution had a lot of good. There's a lot of good at Revolution. From what I saw of the pay-per-view, there's a lot of great. But the talking points of the whole show, doesn't matter how much you loved everything before the main event. The main event was the highlight of the night for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
Now, Nick, what for those who don't, well, let me explain for those who don't know. We had an exploding barbed wire death match advertised for weeks on AEW between Kenny Omega, the AEW World Champ, and Jon Moxley. Jon Moxley, no stranger to death matches. Kenny Omega, he's like Kenny Omega. They had that unsanctioned lights out match at Full Gear, I think it was last year, and like it was good. Don't get me wrong, but it wasn't a death match by any means. And they've been promoting it. It was gonna be this crazy ass thing. And in the rules, they stated that the match would be 30 minutes at most, because if not, at 30 minutes, the ring will explode. There'd be an explosion of some kind. Like, oh, okay. Like I don't think the match would get there. If you would have asked me this last Friday, I would have said to you, there's no way we get to the exploding ring part. Mm-hmm. But apparently we did. Because at the show, the match ended before 30 minutes.
Yes.
But they kept the clock going for whatever reason, like the 30-minute counter. It kept going down. So Jon Moxley's handcuffed in the ring because he just lost, and he's all bloodied and handcuffed. And there's like a minute left, and Eddie Kingston, your boy, runs out because that's Jon Moxley's homie from the Indies. He's running, and then bang. Who the hell? Like he's running. He gets into the ring. He has 18 seconds to get Jon Moxley out of the ring, which is more than enough time to roll him out. Yeah. More than enough.
Because he's not handcuffed to the ring, which would have made sense.
He is handcuffed behind his back.
In the ring.
Right. So he could easily roll him out, but he's like checking up on him, waiting for the clock to end, essentially, killing time. And there's like 3, 2, 1. He jumps on top of him, and like sparklers go off, and there's like there's smoke, and
Goldberg came out. No, I'm just kidding.
It looked like a Gilbert entrance.
Yes,
and like, what the hell? You botched the whole exploding barbed wire deathmatch thing. Granted, I don't know how you pull this off correctly on pay-per-view. If you're a mainstream, like I know there are indies that do death matches that are absolutely insane, because I mean you can just look them up on YouTube and you can see some light tubes and tables on fire, but they're not going to do that on AEW. No. But you're gonna have like not even like fire, like you're gonna have like smoke bombs go off and freaking sparklers from the top of the ring, or from the four posts in the ring. It botched the ending to the show. They had to immediately acknowledge it the second the show went off the air.
Oh yeah, Kenny Omega was pissed.
Apparently, Kenny Omega was super pissed off. They tried they tried to have an explanation for it on Dynamite, and it didn't work. Like it's like, no, like we're not dumb. They're trying to pin it on like freaking like Impact or whoever. Like, oh, we built it ourselves. No, like don't like stop it. And that's how the show ended. And this is supposed to be this big payoff, and it wouldn't be that big of a deal if Eddie Kingston didn't sell it like death.
Oh yeah,
Eddie Kingston was like he sold it as if the ring legitimately collapsed and it exploded, because he was like immobile, he's dead, like, you know, in the ring. And Moxley got up and addressed the crowd almost immediately after the show ended, because you need to explain what the hell just happened. And what an ending! What an ending to an Revolution that had some big shoes to fill after last year's Revolution. Maybe I'm biased because I was there at that show.
It's true though, but that was like their first, big time thing that they were gonna do, and it was just gonna be like, I, so I watched it. They could have at least done the ring collapsing, right?
Right. Yeah.
Like WWE did that spot like 3 times because their wrestlers were too heavy. What are they? I just it it was kind of embarrassing as a wrestling fan, especially as an AEW fan, because you're going, this is what needs to be taken seriously. And then they pull that stunt at the end where it's like, and if Eddie Kingston wasn't such a good seller, like seriously, he is good at selling.
He's a great wrestler.
He did what they told him to do.
Yes.
And
it's no one's fault but AEW.
Right.
As a company. It's no one's
they
fault.
botched the ending. It's just like, I don't want this to be like a quick segment because I do want to pose some questions moving forward with AEW.
Mm-hmm.
And my high spot has to do with AEW, obviously. But it's just like, you explained it the best. It's just like the pay-per-view was it was okay, but they kind of blew the ending. And
because that's what people remember, is the finish to the main event. Like, and how
Jim Cornette, I think, has a quote. I don't remember it directly, or somebody was tweeting out a quote about like, your pay-per-view could be as great until the ending or something like that. And if you blow the ending, then
I think you're Bully Ray.
Baby.
It was it was Vince McMahon. He's like,
Vince said it. Like,
people will remember the main event and to the finish. They remember the finish and that's it.
Trust me, WWE has done this where they effed up. I mean, Seth Rollins versus Bray Wyatt is already enough to make me blow a gasket about the WWE blowing it like they have before. Right. But this is different because this is where Impact lives, or it's not where Impact. It's not where AEW lives or dies. You know what I mean? Yeah. But it is where they can set themselves apart. Mm-hmm. Now I understand that there was never going to be like the barbed wire death match was okay. Like, I thought that was fine. I guess they fell into the barbed wire a few times. There was a little blood ski. But like, I almost would have rather the timer just ended if they were going to do that form of an ending. So AEW Revolution, bleh. Chris Anthony Lopez, where I left, where I kind of diverted the attention away from the subject matter in the last segment. I kind of have something like that too. Impact Wrestling, the pay-per-view will be their latest pay-per-view. It's going to be Moose versus Rich Swann for both titles.
They're unifying the belts, yeah.
They're unifying the belts. Well, I don't even think that they're unifying the belts.
I saw they're unifying the belts.
They might be unifying the belts. Okay. And they're going to face against, at the end of the pay-per-view, Kenny Omega for that title.
Title versus title.
The Collector, Kenny Omega. Now, Bobby Lashley was the Collector, so clearly they're not going to go that route. But there seems to be an Impact wrestler who was the Collector of belts at some point or another. Would you mark out if the ending of that pay-per-view was Kenny Omega with the Impact Championship and the AEW Championship, and Austin Aries comes out and confronts Kenny Omega? I don't think it's going to happen, but I know that he was a Collector at one point there.
I don't want this to turn into if Austin Aries wasn't the worst.
I know. That's the issue.
I remember even before he went to NXT/WWE, I was a fan of Austin Aries.
I was a huge fan.
And I was really soured at how he left WWE and how he acted once he went back to the Indies. And even the peeps in the business were also not the biggest fans of him as well. Especially what he did to our boy, Johnny Mundo. Right. But if they did that, it would definitely get a reaction, maybe not the reaction people want.
Right, I know.
Kenny will leave that pay-per-view with all the belts.
You think so?
I do think so. Because if I'm not mistaken, TNA is the one that's escaped him. Like if I'm not mistaken.
Well, other than like a WWE type belt.
Of course, other than a
But
WWE.
he has won so many belts over his time. And maybe eventually he might win a WWE championship. We don't know.
I'm not gonna hold my breath.
I don't think it's ever gonna happen. I think that AEW is his for the taking.
I was thinking about that yesterday, or maybe on my drive back over here to Indiana. I was thinking like, yo, Cody Rhodes is never gonna go back to WWE. Like never. Because why would he? And like I remember like the Rhodes, the Bucks, Omega, they were all talking to WWE at one point. All of them. And imagine if they all went. AEW wouldn't exist. And on Raw and SmackDown, there would be the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega and Cody Rhodes, like the nightmare that we see him as now. And Jericho would still probably be there. Like it would be nuts.
Might be an NXT. Like seriously, you have to think about it like that. Moxley would be in New Japan for sure.
Moxley,
I don't think he would be with the WWE.
I want to see that timeline. What would happen if all
would be interesting.
If all those Bullet Club guys, at least at the time, they went to WWE. That's a timeline I'd love to see, but I don't want to get too caught up in hypotheticals. I mean, we still can see them on WWE programming, as if Tony Khan said anything, that forbidden door is always open. But
it's never gonna happen.
I don't think it's ever gonna happen. I'd be shocked if wrestling synergy happens in WWE, of all places.
Right.
So I'm not gonna hold my breath about that. But to go back to Revolution for a second, the pay-per-view was fine. Like I said at the top of the show, I love Scorpio Sky winning that. Ethan Page was also there.
Yes,
let's not mention Ethan Page because my man's gone. He went through a whole ass reform. I know he was in Impact with the North, but now he's all ego Ethan Page. And
he's gonna be great there.
He's gonna be awesome, and I can't wait to see what he does over there. But the Sting Allen versus Team Taz cinematic match was cool from what I saw of it. Sting picking up the W there, and now he's apparently going to be in a angle with Lance Archer. We'll see how that goes.
For the love of God, be careful with my boy.
Right. I mean, if your name's Archer, Murderhawk, like I'm worried about you.
You're a big dude. You're a big dude, Murderhawk. Please be careful.
Right. But AEW Revolution, they had big shoes to fill from last year, and I know they had fans there.
Did we lose Chris Anthony?
It was Moxley Jericho main eventing, and that Young Bucks Omega Hangman match was insanity. It was insanity, and there was Cassidy Pac from last year was great too. Like there were a lot of great matches. But just something about this Revolution fell off, and the main event the ending to the main event definitely left a sour taste in my mouth. But Dynamite still lived up to the hype, per usual. So I'm not really surprised. But yeah, man, the AEWs, to me, they might be the must watch right now for better or for worse. I love we come on the show every week to talk about how much we love SmackDown, how much we love NXT, and we do. And NXT has a lot of great stuff, and I may have a little baby high spot for NXT, maybe. But the AEW stuff to me is the must watch right now. Out of the major wrestling promotions, especially when fans get back, I am awfully curious to see how that goes.
They're doing real good with that stuff. But that said, there's a reason why I feel like they're doing really good with this. Or there's something that I think should happen. Chris, if you want to start with your high spot, if it's a baby high spot, or do you want me to go first?
No, I'll start my little baby high spot. But let's do the high spots. Let's go. Let's rock. High spots, the program, for those who don't know, are unpopular opinions, things we want to get off our chest. Nick and I, we usually alternate, or one of us does it. Primarily me, because I like to complain about everything. But we both have one. Nick's going to take the bulk of it, but I have a little baby one that I mentioned at the top. So like NXT, they introduced NXT Women's Championship belts, which I mean, great. I cannot help but echo Nick's sentiments also from the top of the show. why? Like you already have women's tag belts. Why not just drop them in NXT and keep them there?
well, okay. So, and I don't want to interrupt you, but I mentioned this to a friend at work today who loves wrestling. I said what they needed to do was they needed to build up the tag teams in NXT and then bring the tag team championship back to the main roster where they could F it up again. So like I thought that like they could debut people and start building women's tag teams to bring it back, and then eventually, there's no freaking women's championship or tag team championship contenders beyond like Mandy and Dana and maybe a couple of other people, but it's just like sorry, go on.
They just had a whole tournament dedicated to women's tag teams, whether they built them or they're already established. Like they had a whole tournament for that.
Yeah.
And apparently they botched that tournament too. They weren't supposed to be going on at the same time as the men's one because the men's one overshadowed it, let's be honest. Yes. And when we got to the women's one and we got to the final, Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez won, great. Like hell yeah. Like I mean, Dakota Kai has been doing some great stuff, probably some of the best stuff of her whole career that I've seen in NXT the last year. And Raquel Gonzalez, they're building her up to the point now where she looks like she's gonna wrestle Io Shirai next for the NXT Women's Championship because Io Shirai is tearing it up at NXT. NXT still has the best women's division of all wrestling promotions. Fight.
Where is Taya Valkyrie?
We'll see. But the NXT Women's Tag Team Championships, I get why they're there, but at the same time, I don't get why they're there. Like you have women's tag belts already that you could have dropped in NXT for an extended period of time before we had another tag team from the main roster contend for them. But because you like Shia and Shayna, or Nia and Shayna so much, you have to keep the belts on them for whatever freaking reason. And now you make these new belts, great, and you give them, they're given to Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez. Great,
good idea.
And you make them lose later that night. Like I will never understand the whole idea of we're gonna give you these belts and we're gonna make you lose them later in the night. Like that makes the wrestlers that were given the belts look bad. They won the tournament. Right? Like they lost to Shotzi Blackheart and Ember Moon. Don't get me wrong. I love both of them. I love Ember Moon and I love Shotzi Blackheart. Mm-hmm. But come on, like we could have. Do we have to do this now? Like we had to do that same night. I don't understand it. If there's a reasoning behind it, it has not been explained to me. And even then, it just felt weird. It felt weird. They're gonna do great things. There are a bunch of women in NXT that deserve the spotlight as well, especially in the tag team division.
That's where it helps. Yeah, is they're gonna build new tag teams with this. They're gonna build new tag teams with this, and then eventually we're gonna get. Maybe this will help with the main roster as well. But at the same time, it's like I don't want Shotzi and Ember Moon making their like main roster debuts again as a tag team. Like I think Shotzi could be a women's champion eventually, and Ember Moon definitely has proven that she can be. She just got brought up way too soon.
Yep, and Ember Moon, she's the first person to hold the NXT women's and women's tag belts, which is awesome. But I just don't like how it went about. You could have given me a couple weeks of Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez. Shit, have them dropping the belts at WrestleMania. Like that's like or at TakeOver during WrestleMania weekend, which apparently is now 2 nights. We're doing 4 nights of or 4 different wrestling shows over the course of one weekend.
Boy.
Just in WWE, and I'm just like, okay. That's gonna have our Wrestle reels all kinds of goofed. We'll see how that goes when the time comes. But it's just I didn't like it. It felt weird to me that I love Shotzi Blackheart, I love Ember Moon. Let me not get it twisted. I'm glad they're champs. It didn't have to be this soon though. That's my thing.
They should have just given them. It's like what you did with the Cruiserweight Championship. You still have 205 Live, but which 205 Live is weird because you don't really have like a fighting champion on there because Impact is doing so well with the Impact. Jeez, I'm losing it today. Because NXT is doing so well with the Cruiserweight Championship, which by the freaking way, my boy Jordan Devlin is coming after Santos Escobar. That's going to be one hell of a match.
That's going to be That's gonna be freaking awesome. That's series of matches. Hopefully,
Yes.
it's gonna be awesome.
It's gonna be there. I hope Devlin becomes like the cruiserweight champion at this like WrestleMania weekend thing that we're doing. But that
Word.
said, we are very AEW. We did our interview with Reggie Brown, but we are very AEW heavy this episode.
Yes.
It's kind of strange. Which, by
Right.
the way, interview with Reggie Brown is in the link in the description. It is currently being processed, so check back later. Again, sorry for the technical difficulties. I have no clue why that happened. That said,
no one's fault.
Tony Khan, take out your checkbook
Uh-oh.
and buy Impact Wrestling
Whoa!
and make AEW Impact your second big show of the week. Because your roster is so bloated right now and you need something. You already will have you're going to have Kenny Omega as the Impact and literally repeat the segment. I don't know if Tony Khan has like a sister or like a brother or something like that, or a son at this point. You could be like, Dad, it does say Khan on the check, but it doesn't say
you did
Tony
the
Khan
invasion
on the
angle.
check. I don't even care. I think that this partnership is working so well that Impact should get an even bigger spotlight, though it would be merged and absorbed by AEW. Give me AEW Impact every week. And even if you want to just keep it as Impact Wrestling and maybe bleed over some of your regular wrestlers and stuff like that into that show, I just feel as though, and I feel it's great that AEW is signing all these people because we want competition in wrestling. I don't think AEW has I will go on the record, and this isn't even really like a crazy statement. AEW will never reach the success or beat WWE with their two main shows and the ratings. There's no way. I made the joke about CM Punk being the thing that would take him over the edge, and I'm sure Tony Khan calls CM Punk every single day, going, Phil, please come to my company. That said, I don't think, and prove me wrong, AEW, you're already not with this whole revolution ending. I don't think AEW will ever beat WWE, SmackDown, or Raw. But I think that like it could do well with Impact as a second show. And who knows? We have this partnership. Don Callis is showing up on Impact, and he's basically incredible manager for Kenny Omega. He is so damn good.
Yeah.
You have the Good Brothers clearly forming some form of a Bullet Club type thing in AEW with Kenny Omega. I just think a merger would make sense. You could keep everything going the same exact way that you do with Impact. People will leave for WWE or greener pastures somewhere else. Maybe, if you can call them greener pastures with the way that WWE treats NXT talent on the main roster. But I'm just saying, like, it could be interesting to see how this could work. You don't need to merge titles. You could have the AEW Impact Women's Championship. You could have and you could do drafts and you could do all that. I just feel as though Impact could use the boost, especially if AEW is moving to Tuesday nights. Or if NXT is moving to Tuesday nights, which I also heard a rumor that Impact might be moving to Wednesdays, which I don't think that can be true.
No way.
All things considered with what's going on. But I think that like TNT would definitely be completely fine with giving AEW another spot during the week. Impact would be on regular television. We would have a second brand with AEW, which I think it's going to need eventually. If Raw was the only thing that we had a week for WWE, it would need to be 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours long because of how much talent is on there, and it would be a whole jumbled mess.
Right.
AEW is going to find themselves in that situation soon enough, and they're going to need a second big brand. Not, not what the Paul White is doing. It's not After Dark, because After Dark is just dark matches for AEW. it's got to be a second brand within the company because you're going to have Dynamite and you're going to have something. And why not it be Impact? Now, I understand that would be an absorbed, bloated roster problem all on its own.
Mhm.
But I think that Impact has enough people that you could make this work.
Whew. I mean, it's definitely not a take I haven't heard before. People talk about it every week now, especially with the crossover that they're
Mhm.
doing constantly. Oh man, it makes sense. Of course, yeah, it makes all the sense in the world. Like Tony Khan just straight up like, yeah, like I'll buy Impact. And I do think AEW will inevitably have a second show on TV because their other two shows are on YouTube. Once Elevation gets off the ground, it'll join Dark on YouTube,
Right.
which, in their defense, that's something WWE isn't doing. They're not doing YouTube shows. They're not doing whole booked cards on YouTube every week.
Right.
So it's kind of, I don't want to say innovative by any means, but it's definitely something that WWE isn't doing. So good on them. But oh man, it being Impact, that'd be wild. And I know they would inherit a lot of wrestlers, a lot of folks who would be able to cross over. But at the end of the day, it's like the monopolization of wrestling. Like remember all the like them years ago where it was rumored that WWE would buy Impact, or at least their video library, which I mean would be a precursor to them buying the whole company, and it just never happened.
And
So
yeah,
we'll see.
and I understand like the idea of I understand the monopolization of wrestling in that sense. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And I get that. But at the same time, I mean, they're working together already. Impact for as we always, and I understand that we say this every single freaking week. Impact is on borrowed time. Impact is on borrowed time. It's lasted longer than any wrestling company ever, whether it's called TNA, whether it's called TNA Impact, whether it's called
And
Impact
that's
Wrestling, Global Force. I don't care.
and that's honestly I've done a whole 180 on Impact. I don't watch. I'm not gonna act like I watch the programming every week, but
No.
the fact that they're still up is extremely telling. That the fan base for Impact is passionate, and they tune in every week, and they're still doing shows. I gave up on Impact years ago. I thought I was like what you're saying, like oh they're done. Like WWE just buy them now. Tony Khan just buy them, but TNA/Impact may still be in a position where they can support themselves, especially if they're picking up new talent like Matt Cardona, like Brian Myers, like to bring these folks in. And who the hell knows? Who the hell knows? With
They turned Rich Swann into a star.
Rich Swan's their world champ right now. Like,
Yeah.
and I would have never thunk it. Like, can you handle this? Like, I would have never thought that guy would have been a world champ somewhere, and he is at Impact. So I would say like yeah, Tony Khan just buy them. But at the same time, for the better of the business, should they buy or should they sell to Tony Khan? Because once the world comes back, or once the world's all right and we're all vaccinated and we're all kissing and hugging each other, like
Oh yeah, brother.
when
Sorry. Brother.
once that happens, I fully expect like the Ultimo, like New Japan, Impact, AEW show, like how New Japan and Ring of Honor did a few years ago at MSG.
Mhm.
I fully expect that, but I don't know if that'll lead to any big partnerships or any unifications, I should say. But who the hell knows? Wrestling is so unpredictable nowadays. We think we know everything as wrestling fans, and we're out here just we're just
We're just a bunch of nerds.
bunch of mercs. But I mean, that's the nature of the program. And speaking of the program, thank you so much for watching the program, everybody. Wrestle Real 21. Again, we apologized earlier for the miscommunication or the not miscommunication, the technical difficulties with the Reggie Brown interview. I just got the notification on my phone that the whole interview is uploaded onto our YouTube channel. Who are they? Question mark. Real 2E's Entertainment.
It's
Make sure
literally right down in this description. If you've made it this far, it's there.
Yes, check out the whole interview. I know we played like 95% of it, but the remaining 5%, is with the rest of the video on our YouTube channel. So
you missed him saying goodbye, which he's a sweet guy. He deserves his time. So
yes,
please make sure that you go there, you drop a like, you subscribe, because that doesn't always happen to us. It just was the circumstances of the situation.
right.
So we are incredibly grateful to have incredible people come here and watch our videos every single week. And please hit that subscribe button, because we're going to be bringing on more guests and have these
Yes.
interesting, pre-recorded segments be a
Yes.
thing on the channel, because we love having people here, we love having people watching, and we love having people involved. So thank you, everybody.
And
so
we got
much.
big plans. We got
do.
big plans going forward. I know I've been teasing some WrestleMania stuff. I'm still trying to get that situated. So the second we find out some concrete details, we'll let everybody know here and
Yes.
across the channel. Watch all of our other programming. The next show on our channel will be on Sunday. We have Real Talk, where we have another Molbach coming on the program.
That's right.
It'll be Nathan Molbach. He'll be on our show this Sunday. Real Talk,
bro.
8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. Spin from the Reel on Mondays. Our Schmodown after show, review show, however you want to call it, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. Really Scared every Thursday. Stay tuned for more shows. I'm not going to say what they are now, because we don't know where they're going to do or where they're going to go, how they're going to do them. But we have more stuff coming. We have a lot more content and just more fun stuff going all around the channel. But before we leave, Nick, did we miss anything, dude?
I don't think so. I think that we covered everything. We're still waiting for Jericho to become a thing, although we need to come up with a new name for it in AEW.
It'll probably be Whitego? No, just forget that. My name is Chris Anthony Lopez, and for the sake of this show, Christian Cage Anthony Lopez. That is Nick Molbach, aka WWE Capital Punish Nick Molbach.
Thank you, Reggie Brown.
Thank you, Reggie Brown, for coming
show.
on the program. Thank you, sir. Make sure you follow that man, and we will also post the socials.
Everything is already in the description. Yeah.
Bang! It's already in the description. So thanks so much, Reggie. Thanks so much for watching. My name's Chris. That's Nick, and this is another Wrestle Reel. Bye, guys. Adios.
And that's the bottom line, 'cause Stone Cold said so.